This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Monday Mashup on Detroit Sports Podcast. I almost said the title of my old podcast. That's why it took me a minute. Got a lot to talk about today. The national anthem policy went down. Some NBA trade happened. I don't know if you heard. And we're going to do a little preview for the NFL. But first, if you love premium sports content, and obviously you do because you're listening to us at Detroit Sports Podcast, then you probably love reading articles. And one of the best places to do that is the new sports page, The Athletic, and their long laundry list of really talented, awesome premium sports writers. Just a ton of talent over at The Athletic and really great content on a daily basis. They post awesome stories, awesome reads, gets you involved. It's the new sports page. And if you are a Detroit Sports Podcast listener, The Athletic's going to give you 30% off when you sign up for a subscription for a year long to The Athletic. All you have to do is go to theathletic.com/DSP. That's theathletic.com/DSP. And again, they're going to give you 30% off. It's the new sports page. It's the best place to get all your sports news, all your best sports columns. Check it out at theathletic.com/DSP. One more time, theathletic.com/DSP. Okay, where I'd kind of like to jump into the show today is on a little bit of a monologue. And I will welcome in my co-host in a few minutes. But I want to start, and we'll get into lighter stuff. We'll get into the Kawhi Leonard stuff. We'll get into the NFL preview that I'm teasing a little bit. But I got to start today with the NFL and their just abhorrent attitude towards the national anthem policy. And what happened this week, it's not a good look for the league. And it's a league that desperately needs positive coverage. I mean, through everything that's going on with this league, they desperately need positive coverage. They're looking in the face another domestic violence dispute with LaShawn McCoy, another domestic violence issue that they may mishandle yet again. This is a league that just everywhere you look, something is going on where you can question Goodell, you can question the front office, and it's a league that desperately needs positive coverage, and it's not getting any. Whether it's TV ratings falling, whether it's people saying that football is dead, and by 2030 the league won't exist, whether it's more domestic violence issues, whether it's Goodell handing out punishments that don't match crimes. They need good coverage, and they're not getting that, and it's not helping when the Miami Dolphins player handbook gets released with a one-sentence policy stating that players who do not stand for the anthem would be subject to fines or suspensions at the team's discretion. That is obviously wrong, and the league clearly couldn't handle the heat put on them after this got leaked out because they decided to freeze their anthem policy altogether in a cowardly move where they can't decide who they're more afraid of, the president or the public. Can we all just agree that this is stupid? Like, what country do we live in? I mean, come on. First of all, this country has a laundry list of positive change stemming directly from peaceful protest, and I don't need to break that down for you. You know what I'm talking about. And that's all the kneeling was in the first place, was peaceful protest. You know, Colin Kaepernick wasn't taking pot shots out of a hotel in Vegas. This guy took a knee for something he believes in and made a stand. And in the face of disgusting cowardice on behalf of the league office towards our lovely president, the meaning of the protest got all twisted and warped, and now it means something it never meant to begin with. Understand, this protest never had anything to do with the flag. Never had anything to do with the military. That narrative was created, and an unfortunate amount of the population bought into it as easily as some fans in this city will buy into the Red Wings front office. That protest was about only one thing: police brutality against minority groups in this country. And whether you like it or not, it exists, and it's real, and it's important, and it's uncomfortable. And it should be uncomfortable because it's not a conversation that we should be able to have with each other easily. And just because people in this country are too scared to admit that problems exist doesn't mean they don't. And it's insane how many of you were so put off by a man who utilized the platform afforded to him to voice and stage what should be an important message that you decided you can't even watch football? Like, that sounds like a personal problem. I'm a rational thinker. I'm capable of rational thought, and I'm capable of separating my enjoyment watching football and also knowing that police brutality is fucked up. I can separate a protest from a flag or from the military. But this league can't figure it out. And it's a league that won't let the Chiefs offensive lineman put MD on his jersey after the dude worked his ass off to get a medical degree. It's a league that wouldn't let Antonio Brown pay tribute to one of the greatest athletes in sports history by wearing Muhammad Ali cleats because they can't make money off of it. And in the most disgusting display of tone deafness, it's a league that wouldn't let D'Angelo Williams wear pink to honor his late mother who died of breast cancer because he'd be wearing it in months that don't make money off of breast cancer. I mean, what are we doing? This league wants to lecture its players on morals? This league systematically hid the dangers of concussions from its players. It's the same league that last year embraced a protest they made up because they changed the narrative and got to sell the world on some bullshit unity. Jerry Jones couldn't have gotten down the field faster to hang out with black players and show them just how much he cares. Where were you when your players were literally killing themselves because you wouldn't explain head injuries to them, Jerry? As much as it's a league problem, I've got problems with the fans too. This mentality that athletes should stick to sports in 2018 is absurd. It's painfully ironic to me. The same people shouting down guys like Colin Kaepernick to stick to sports are the same ones shouting down the so-called Hollywood elite to stick to movies. Where were those shouts of stick to movies when Ronald Reagan ran for president or Schwarzenegger for governor? You don't agree with the protest, that's fine. No one's saying you have to, but you got to be honest about it. Like, you guys don't get to come out and trash someone's right to free speech just because they have a different viewpoint than you and then hide behind this bullshit narrative that no one should be allowed to speak their mind on company time. Why not? It's not like their company lets them speak their minds elsewhere. And if the anthem's so much of an issue, just keep the players in the locker room. We're talking about a league that didn't even force their players to be on the field for the anthem until 2009 when they started accepting money from military groups for pregame patriotism displays. And now we got Goodell bending himself into such a mental pretzel out of fear of the president, he can't even decide whether to enforce the rules he created without official votes. Like, what an embarrassment that is. We have a ruling coming out where Goodell comes flying out with claims that he has unanimous national anthem policy just so we can find out the 49ers abstained and the Jets are going to pay fines for their players. Like, what type of commissionership is this? It's disgraceful. Then we got to find out it wasn't even an official vote. Like, here's a simple idea. You want to execute something that makes everybody happy, copy the NBA. You want your players to stand and look pretty for the country's fight song? Cool, NBA players do it. But they also are given opportunity and actively encouraged to voice their opinions on social media. In post-game pressers, on post-game t-shirts, pre-game t-shirts, their shoes, really wherever the hell else they feel like it. And yeah, Colin Kaepernick took it too far when he wore the socks with pigs and cop uniforms. Fine. But this didn't start off as anything worse than a guy doing a peaceful protest. We're talking about a league D'Angelo Williams can't give a damn tribute to his mom. Stop pandering to your fans that run away as soon as real conversation gets brought into football. You really want to let mouth breathers who can't separate police violence from a song while they crack open a Bud Light to watch guys hit each other for 2.5 hours dictate your players' rights? Dude, we don't want people like that on the team anyway. If you can't understand that black people have problems with black people getting killed by police while a white kid in Texas can run into a school, kill 10 people, and go to jail. Quit pandering to a president who mouths off on Twitter about everything. How weak of a league are you? Show an ounce of respect to the guys that take that field every Sunday and put their lives on the line for no other reason than to entertain us and promote your stupid shield. Cut the bullshit with the no fun league. Get your goddamn business together. Act like adults. Dude, I'm so tired of this. And on that note, I will welcome in my co-host, Tanner, to come in here and calm me down a little bit and remind me that we're doing a lighthearted sports show where Kawhi Leonard just went to Toronto to die.
Yeah, I'm going to be the Xanax of your show for you. That's some bold words you got coming out, and I'm going to agree with almost all of it with you. So, but yeah, let's. I'm ready to talk some basketball. And the folks want to hear about this Kawhi trade, and then of course we got to talk some NFL too. So
definitely, and I appreciate you being here because I need someone to come in and cool me off after that. I'm a little heated.
Yeah, just take a breather, take a couple deep breaths, Shea. Woo-saw, woo-saw.
Yeah,
all
I took a nap earlier, and then I cracked open an energy drink to do this, and I went nuts. I had to get that off my chest, though. It's unbelievable to me that it's been, 3 years since Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and we're still this bent out of shape about it. Like, it's not a difficult thing to solve.
Yeah, I agree, and the NFL literally can't get out of its own way with these rulings and stuff like that. So, it'd be interesting to see what they do later on, and if they try to fix it at all.
Which I just... I think when you look at the NBA and how well they've done in allowing their players to speak their minds and allowing their players to take the, when you're an athlete, you have gathered yourself a platform that allows you to voice your opinion to millions of people. And I really believe that when you have that ability, you should utilize it for the best possible means. And the NBA has done an awesome job of letting their players do that without pissing off their fan base. And that's why their ratings are up 27%. So at some point, just take a look from the guys who are doing it right, I guess. That's all I think.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think they could learn something from the NBA and apply it to themselves and see if the fan base will come back to them.
Okay, and speaking of the NBA, obviously the big news of the week, really the news of the week in sports, because the summertime is just so dead.
Slow.
Yeah, man, it's just okay, well, let's talk about this. Before we get into the NBA stuff, I do want to comment. I said that I wasn't going to watch the All-Star game, and I said that I wasn't going to watch the Home Run Derby. I didn't watch the Home Run Derby, and I'm glad, because apparently Bryce Harper was cheating, which really... If anybody cares so much about the Home Run Derby that you're butthurt about Bryce Harper cheating, you might want to get your own head checked.
I mean, I literally didn't even hear about this till now. That's how uninformed I am of the Home Run Derby.
They said that his dad was throwing the next pitch before the ball hit the ground.
Wow. Okay. I mean, really, who cares though?
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole point. If you're getting bent out of shape about the Home Run Derby, you got to figure yourself out.
I thought he had a cork in his bat or something. Not his dad was throwing pitches too fast. Okay, let's relax.
Yeah, dude. It's seriously. Yeah, it's not even a juiced bat. He could have been out there playing with an aluminum bat, and they'd be like, "Yeah, it's kind of messed up." But no, it was his dad was throwing the pitches a little quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, gotta slow it down, old geezer. Let's relax. We're trying to win over here.
But I did watch a little bit of the All-Star game, and I gotta say, I fell in love with baseball again for an hour and a half.
That's it? Only an hour and a half?
Yeah, well, after, I saw Max Scherzer, and I got kind of, doe-eyed at the memories of Scherzer in the American League Division Series against Oakland when he had that wild inning, loaded the bases, and then got 3 straight outs.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the most memorable Tigers moments for me, in recent memory anyway.
So here's what I realized, though, this week, and I kind of want to just throw this in because it's the only local content I can think of in this godforsaken city of a summer sports town with the Tigers playing as bad as they are. It was kind of cute last year when the Astros won the World Series, and we got to see Verlander get his much-deserved ring. And then there was a conversation, I guess, between JD Martinez and Justin Verlander earlier this week because the Red Sox are in town playing the Tigers. There was a conversation between the two of them, and I guess the I don't know what word I'm looking for. The center of the conversation was how didn't they win the World Series? And if I could give one reason why, it would be, and JD Martinez was not on the team at this point, but I do think the 2013 team was the only one that really would have won the World Series. I don't think you beat the Giants in 14. I don't think you get past the Royals in 15. The Indians and the Cubs in 16 speak for themselves, and since then it's rebuild mode. So I look at that 2013 team. Joaquin Benoit is the one reason why we didn't win a World Series with Justin Verlander. But then I got to thinking, the Red Sox are the best team in baseball this year by 5.5 games right now. They could play less than 500 ball the rest of the season and still win 100 games. How much is it going to suck when 2 consecutive years we watch former Tigers win World Series in Justin Verlander last year and this year in JD Martinez and David Price?
I mean, that would kind of hurt, but David Price wouldn't bother me as much. JD Martinez would bother the hell out of me just because the dude I didn't want to trade him personally. I love the guy, and I think he was a great player for the Tigers, and I was a little upset when we got rid of him, but we had to do it, of course. I mean, we'd be pretty dumb not to try to get something for him. So, but yeah, it still blows my mind that we didn't win something. 2013, I think 2013 might have hurt the most. Even getting swept in the World Series by the Giants didn't hurt as bad as losing to the Red Sox in 2013.
And I stand by it, dude. I said on my radio show a couple weeks ago that if you take one sporting event from Detroit history and you could turn it around, you could change the outcome. I had the Lions and the Cowboys, the picked up flag game was on the list, where if you could change the outcome of that game, how much further does your team go? And I thought, do they have a shot at beating the Seahawks the following week? Yeah, they really couldn't beat the Packers that year, so I don't know that they beat them in the or in the NFC Championship. And if you get to the Super Bowl, are you really beating Tom Brady? I don't know. It's too much. I don't know. But I looked back at that 2013 ALCS against the Red Sox, and I think if you win Game 2, if David Ortiz never hits that grand slam and you win that game, you win the World Series.
Oh yeah, I mean you go up 2-0 heading home, like yeah, we probably a 4-0 sweep in my opinion at that point.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, they smoked them in Game 3, and then
Yeah, we were at that game.
yeah, and then it yeah, and then it was at Game 4 or whatever. And I was thinking back, like who was it that got out of the National League that year? Was it the Cardinals? Like whatever team it was that the Red Sox played in the World Series was not nearly as good as any of the teams in the American League.
Yeah, I can't remember now. I'm curious. I think it was the Cardinals. I'm gonna look it up just really quickly just to refresh my memory. Yeah, St. Louis Cardinals and the Red Sox was the World Series. So yeah, I mean, dude, who knows? I mean, we probably would have won. It would have been interesting to see the Cardinals and Tigers again, 06 rematch.
It would have been so nice, and that would have been like the thing that kills me about that 2013 year is the Tigers were literally setting a record for combined ERA by a starting rotation in the postseason. And it was just that goddamn bullpen that couldn't get out of its own way.
And also, I think that was the series where Prince Fielder had a running gaff, and when they could have scored or something, if I remember right, everyone was throwing shade at Prince Fielder that year because he couldn't get out of his own way and couldn't do anything that entire series.
Dude, he was so bad. I remember dragging him on Twitter like it was nobody's business. I was so sick of Prince Fielder.
Yeah. I mean, now he's not even in the league anymore, which is wild to think about, Shea. He's not in the league anymore.
Yeah, you remember, what did they sign him for back in, what was it, 2012? Oh. They signed him for 10 years and like $300 million.
I don't even want to think about what we paid him. It was something just astronomically bad.
And then was that the same series, that Red Sox series, when he tried to slide into second base and he just fell over? Or was it third base and he dropped the pop-up?
I think it's third base. Yeah, I think. I don't even know what it was.
Dude.
He had so many just bad. I think he batted like 100 for the whole series or something stupid like that. So.
Yeah. So, but I kind of fell in love with baseball again. It made me sad because I remember, like, my viewpoint on baseball these days is this: that it's a regional sport. So if your city has a really, really good baseball team, you're probably really into baseball, and if your city doesn't, you probably just don't fucking care about it at all. So, like, that is where I'm kind of at with it, and it made me miss when the Tigers were competitive because it was just so easy to be all in on baseball when the Tigers were really, really good.
Yeah, you definitely are right about the regional thing because living in Jacksonville, there's not a baseball team around. There's a minor league team here, I think, and no one even pays attention to baseball down here. It's literally just Jaguars, Jaguars, Jaguars. So you're definitely right about that.
Detroit's a great baseball town, too, and it's like... I've said to my dad, I wish I lived in Boston right now so that I could be all in on baseball, but it's tough when the team's this bad, and you just know, like, for the next 3 years, this is what it is. But anyway, moving further north, like Kawhi Leonard, let's just put it simply. What do we think? Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors in exchange for DeMar DeRozan and a non-lottery first-round pick in 2020, I believe. And the
Jacob Podol,
yeah,
Podol or whatever.
Podol and DeRozan and a non-lottery pick go to the Spurs, and the Raptors get Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard.
Dude, I don't know, man. Like, it's on paper, I guess you could say the Raptors won just because they're getting a top 5 player in the league from Kawhi, but if I'm the Spurs, I'm excited for multiple reasons, just because Kawhi is just a cancer that has been a problem for multiple seasons now. So just get him out of there. And also, you just did him so dirty by sending him to the complete opposite end of the spectrum where he actually wanted to be. Great move.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome by the Spurs. Like Popovich just with a straight middle finger to Kawhi's face. Like, dude, you want to play in LA? Let me send you to the frozen north. And I thought it was great by the Raptors, too, because you look at it, they got rid of the huge DeRozan contract, which, on the one hand, if you want to say that, well, you're trading away your all-time franchise player, they are, but they're getting rid of the money, and it's time for them to rebuild anyway. This is like a last-ditch, maybe we can get it done this year. If not, Kawhi's leaving anyway. We're going to have more money than God for the biggest free agency season ever. So I think, like, the Raptors, when you look at it that way, they won. When you look at it from an on-paper perspective, Kawhi Leonard's a better player than DeMar DeRozan, so you won. You do trade away a piece of your future in Poole, but I think you'll be okay. You look at the Spurs, though, and people are like, man, the Spurs are really going to suck. They're really going to regress. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, dude, they might actually surprise some people. This is going to be the greatest 16-foot shooting team in history.
And I laugh at that idea just because it's literally the opposite of what this league is and what it's trending towards, which is a 3-point shooting league. And I do not like LaMarcus Aldridge in the league. I think he's just literally a waste of space, in my opinion. He's not a waste of space. He's overpaid for what he does. He's literally just a hook shot king, post up player.
He's
like
Costco Tim Duncan.
Yes, he's very Costco. He's Walmart Tim Duncan. Let's be real here. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Greg Popovich can do, but it's going to come down to all the other players around him because they still have some young talent on the Spurs too. People kind of seem to forget about. So maybe they could make a run, but we'll see.
And it might change the dynamic of that team too, where like with DeMar instead of a Kawhi, and granted Kawhi didn't play last year, but with DeMar, maybe now instead of DeJounte Murray, you give Patty Mills more reps at point guard. It changes the dynamic, but I think anytime that you give a coach like Pop two guys who are going to be 20-point scorers and one of them is actually going to play instead of Kawhi sitting out all season, you got to look at the Spurs as a threat. I mean, Pop's a great coach.
Yeah,
He's the great coach.
Yeah, it's good. You also get a fired up DeMar DeRozan too, because I mean, Toronto did him dirty too. We seem to forget about that. They promised him, he said he wanted to be in Toronto the rest of his career, this and that, and he was promised a bunch of stuff. And then, they told him they weren't going to trade him. Then literally a week later, they trade him. So maybe a fired up DeRozan helps carry this team and makes them a legit threat. But also the West is stacked, so we'll see how much of a threat they can really be.
Yeah, the West is just absolutely stacked, but what's being not acknowledged so much is now the Atlantic Division in the East is loaded with talent.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto, I mean, I don't even know, man. Like, Toronto is just, they're going to be a top 3 seed in the East more than likely, but you got to remember Boston, and of course Philly's there too. So, I mean, Boston's still the front runner in the East, no doubt in my mind. I don't know how people are on Twitter saying that Toronto is now the front runner for the East, which doesn't make any sense to me because you don't even know if Kawhi is going to even play at all.
You can't even get even money on the Celtics to win the East. They're 4 to 5 odds. Like, that's how far ahead they are. But you look at, like, my fear with the Raptors is this. They could be very good, but I think they're, like, 34-year-old Kyle Lowry, at some point, dude, you're not scaring me. And then you look at like the rest of the league or the rest of the team, I don't think they're putting enough around a guy like Kawhi to engage him enough that they're going to really compete. Like, we're talking about Kawhi Leonard, who is already 80% a Laker. Like, his mind is not in Toronto at all. And from the reports that he's warming, coming like 6 hours after hearing he has zero desire to play in Toronto and he's very upset. Like, dude, I guess the Riverwalk don't look so bad now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember, too, people said that about Paul George last year, too. They're like, oh, he's a Laker by next year, and he ended up staying in OKC, so maybe something like that happens for Toronto. But like you said, I don't even think they have enough star power to compete, like, it'll be a legit threat in the East. They have a lot of depth, that's for sure, but I don't think they have enough star power to help carry them to Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and again, when you look at an Eastern Conference that, I mean, we look at the West, and as loaded as it is with the Golden State dynasty, and now with LeBron being a Laker, and with the Houston Rockets. By the way, we got to talk about Carmelo Anthony, too. Put a pin in the Rockets. But with all the teams in the West that are so stacked, Oklahoma City, the East is kind of like up and coming. You look at the young Celtics, the young Sixers. Toronto could have a really speedy rebuild even when they lose Kawhi Leonard. You look at the teams that are coming up like Memphis, Atlanta, and
Indiana.
Yeah, and you go, okay, well, maybe the power shift is happening in the next 2 or 3 years where all of a sudden it's going to be dynasties running through the Eastern Conference instead of the Western Conference. So, like, that's another issue I got to look at. And again, when it comes to Toronto with Kawhi Leonard, an unmotivated Kawhi Leonard with a brand new head coach on a team he doesn't want to play for, I just have worries.
I mean, those are legit worries, too, to have. As far as you saying, the dynasty shift to the East or the power shift to the East, I'm going to disagree just a little bit just because I think, the East got such a bad rap for being uncompetitive when LeBron was there. I think now it's going to be a more competitive East. You're going to see a lot more upsets, a lot of this and that going on, a lot of young, like you said, a lot of young players coming up, like a Giannis in Milwaukee might make some noise. Indiana's got, Oladipo. They might make a run. You never know. Like, there's a lot of young players, but I think the East is just going to be a lot more competitive going forward.
And I'm looking forward to that, but I do think, like, you look at the Western Conference again, they're getting older. And then we have to bring this up because Carmelo Anthony is skyrocketing on my list of greatest players of all time after having one of the worst basketball seasons I've just ever seen from a player, period. Like, from a starting player, I don't know that I've seen many worse seasons than what he just had in Oklahoma City. And this dude is going to collect $28 million in a lump sum from Atlanta, then get his pick of 3 of the most desirable cities in America to go and play a season and make $6 million. Like, we're talking about a dude who's going to make $34 million in a single season to have his choice of what city he wants to play in after having the worst year ever.
I mean, this guy is either the worst. He's either really smart or just like really lucky. I don't know which one it is. I'm going with lucky on this point, just because it's just like no one would have thought Carmelo Anthony, an all-star caliber player, was going to go just completely shit the bed in OKC and just happen to end up making $36 million or whatever it is. So it's mind-blowing to me what he's done this offseason.
Just caught the biggest W in the history of sports in one offseason is what Carmelo Anthony did. And, like, imagine, I don't know what the salary situation is, but I just picture this because it sounds like a perfect situation where Melo is like, all right, I'm going to take $5 million and go to Golden State. Fuck it. And he just, like, sits on the bench, and he doesn't even play, dude. Like, they look down the bench, and they're, like, putting Jordan Bell and Pat McCaw in instead of Melo, and he's just sitting there cashing his $5 million check, getting a ring, talking about, you know, he plays, like, 10 minutes every game, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to rise the all-time scoring leaders list and catch a ring real quick, get paid $34 million, and head home.
If there's no way he does that. I would be so mad if he did that. One,
I couldn't even be mad at him.
He's already scoffed at the media for saying he's going to ride the bench in OKC, and I think he wants to play. So wherever he goes, he's going to end up playing. And I think destination number 1 and the most likely option is Houston, just because they can get him super cheap and plug him in right away.
Yeah, he's going to be a Houston Rocket. Like, it's almost a foregone conclusion, and it just to me, like, that says more about Daryl Morey than it does about Carmelo, because what the fuck you doing, man? You give up on Ariza and Luka Mbamute so that you can get Carmelo Anthony?
They're probably not complaining, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. I mean, Ariza was solid, and Mbamute just had injury issues all season, but I think the Melo replacement might not be so bad.
We'll see. I think there's a shot that he goes to Houston and gets like a second wind, but I think it's more likely that he just continues to be trash. Anyway,
he gets to go play with his boy.
What was that?
He gets to go play with his boy, CP3.
It's true, the banana boat.
Mm-hmm.
Big factor. Anyway, we want to get into some NFL talk. There's 6 weeks until the NFL season kicks off. That's it, 6 weeks. Thank God. This is Sunday number 6. After today, there will be... Of course, it's the Monday mashup. We're recording on Sunday night. After today, there will be only 5 more Sundays until the NFL season is in full swing with Week 1 matchups. So what we're doing every Monday, until we get to that point, is we're going to take a division and we're going to break it down. And we might have to do a couple next week because there are 8 divisions in 6 weeks. So we'll figure that out. But this week, we wanted to start with the one division at the NFL, aside from the NFC North, that is probably the biggest question mark of all of the divisions because it's so loaded and at the same time kind of mediocre. And that would be, of course, the AFC West.
Yeah, like you said, it seems loaded, but there's also so many question marks on each individual team that you kind of you don't really know who's going to come out on top. And we're going to do our best to pick a winner, break it down for you guys. So Shea, what you got? You got any starting points you want to make over this division?
Well, I'm thinking let's just look at the standings from last year, and we'll break down each team a little bit. Like we'll each kind of give our take, and then we'll each give what we think the standings are going to be in this division. And let's go with 3 guys out of the division that you think are going to be really quality fantasy players.
Oh, okay, I like that. Okay, yes. Oh, my fantasy football scratch or itch is just going hard right now. I need fantasy football. I need football in my life. I'm ready.
Okay, so starting with the 2017 AFC West champion Kansas City Chiefs, looking forward to 2018. Obviously, parted ways with Alex Smith. Great running back in Kareem Hunt. We're looking at a team that really had a lot of promise last year, but the big question mark is Pat Mahomes going to be able to fill the shoes that Alex Smith left for him?
Yeah, and of course, he had some playing time last year. He came in certain spots, and he showed flashes of being capable. I just think his full first season as a starting quarterback, they're going to see some growing pains personally. Like you said, they still have offensive weapons around him, though. Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, they can do some damage, but I just think, you're going to see some picks. He's going to go through. He's a gunslinger, too. People forget. He's just going to gun it, and if he gets picked off, he gets picked off.
And that's the thing that gets me excited about Pat Mahomes is with a guy like Tyreek Hill just running fly routes every play because he's faster than everyone else in the league. Dude, if he's a gunslinger and he's just letting it fly, that could be really dangerous.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, and also could lead, get him in some trouble. That's kind of like the Brett Favre mentality when, he ended up with the most interceptions ever, I believe. So you could see something like that happening. But you also have to remember their defense was absolutely terrible last year, and they end up losing Marcus Peters. He's gone. So they finished 28th in total team defense last year. It could get worse, Shea.
Well, the one thing that we have to remember too, Tanner, is that last year, was week 1 or week 2, they lost their captain on defense in Eric Berry, and he is coming back. That's a guy who I know it's just, we say like it's a team game and it's 11 guys on the field. There are certain guys who kind of transcend that and can be captains for your entire defense and bring an entire unit up. And Eric Berry is one of those guys in the league. So with him coming back, it'll be interesting. The issue is the other 3 teams in this division are really, really good too. And I kind of want to move on now to the second place team from last year, the Los Angeles Chargers. And I have a really simple question about this team for you.
Okay.
Is this Phillip Rivers' breakout season?
Yes, it is. I'm going to tell you why. We forget last year, their first 3 games, I think they started off 0-3, and all of them were by less than a field goal. And they would have won those games if they had a kicker in place. And this team just missed the playoffs last year, if I'm not mistaken. Like, if they won one more game of those 3, they would be in the wild card spot, and they could have had a shot. Who knows what happens from there. The offense, has a bunch of weapons still. They got Keenan Allen. If he stays healthy, he stayed healthy all of last year for the most part. So if he can stay that course, Melvin Gordon, of course, a great running back. And then Phillip Rivers, you mentioned. People kind of forget about him on the West Coast, but he's still out there gunslinging. He's still doing his thing. And the defense is solid. They were like middle of the pack, but, they have room for improvement for sure.
I have questions with this team. One thing with this team that, I have to look at the Chargers and go, I would not be shocked if they made the Super Bowl. I would not be shocked if they went 6-10.
That's true. Very true.
The one thing that's like really giving me pause is losing Hunter Henry for the season. And I think it can be overstated how important a tight end is in your offense, but when it's a guy like Hunter Henry who is showing as much promise and skill as he was, that's a huge loss.
Yeah, honestly, I completely forgot they lost him until you just brought it up again. That is a pretty big blow, but at the end of the day, they still have weapons on the field that they can go to, and I still have faith in Phillip Rivers that they can get something done, if not make a playoff appearance. I
just think every single year we talk about, is this Phillip Rivers' breakout year? And every single year I start feeling more and more confident, like it is, this is it. And then every single year it's not. So eventually,
he's getting older too.
Yeah, he is getting older, and eventually, to me, it just has to happen that he comes out and wins. And it's the most unfortunate thing about Phillip Rivers is he's never had that breakout year, and I'm not sure it's entirely his fault because it seems like every single season he loses the most valuable weapon on his offense, and then he's just asked to weather the storm.
Yeah, well, we know if he doesn't ever have a breakout year, there's going to be an ESPN 30 for 30 guaranteed.
Yep, that's true.
The quarterback that never was.
He'll be like Tony Romo. Imagine if Tony Romo won 1 Super Bowl, people would consider him elite. Same thing with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right, well, I guess we can move on to Oakland finishing 3rd. I don't know their exact record. I don't have it in front of me.
6-10 last year.
6-10 last year. Okay, there we go. Of course, the big story out of Oakland is John Gruden getting hired as the head coach, and what is his impact for this team, Shea?
Dude, this is the thing about this is it can't be understated. It's their last year playing in Oakland.
True.
And that's like, you got a guy in Marshawn Lynch who is playing in his hometown. You have a coach in John Gruden who's kind of having a homecoming, if you will. You have a defense that is solid, and you have a quarterback in Derek Carr who could be incredible with wide receiver like Amari Cooper, and he's got weapons like Michael Crabtree. And you look at a guy who really, this is a team.
Crabtree's gone. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Baltimore now.
Yeah, that's my mistake. I forgot.
It's
but
okay.
This is a team you look at with Derek Carr, with Amari Cooper, with Lynch, with the new coaching staff, with a solid defense in place, and playing for something, being it's their last year in Oakland. they could really come out and be a 12-game winner, but at the same time, they could also just be 7-9, 6-10 like they were last year. I don't know. This is the problem I have with this division is it's a lot of teams that I don't know what they are until we get to the one coming up.
Right. No, I totally agree. There's a lot of you kind of have to wait and see what you're getting for the season. I feel like every year the power shifts every single time. But I guess we can move on.
I'll just say with Oakland, I feel like they're going to have an extra oomph out of their 12th man playing home games this year, and that can go a very long way into getting you into the playoffs. I think Oakland could finish close to second place, maybe compete for the division title. But yeah, let's go ahead. We'll move on to the Denver Broncos. I'll let you kick this one off.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, the big signing for Denver was Case Keenum, coming over from the Vikings. Had an excellent season in Minnesota last year, and they had to pay a pretty steep price, if I remember right. And of course, they're still returning a defense that's always going to show up. They finished third in total defense last year, but they ended last year at 5-11, which is kind of weird. And a lot of people, Denver fans, point to no quarterback, and now they got their quarterback. But to me, I don't know if it's going to be enough to carry them forward.
Well, here's my thing with the Broncos is I think Denver fans that bring up we had no quarterback bring up a fairly good point. Their situation was so bad. They had to go out and get Brock Osweiler, who they had already let walk in the past. Their quarterback situation last year was awful, and they went out and fixed it by getting Case Keenum. And Case Keenum's a guy that I don't want to come out here and go, oh, he's going to have another big year, because I don't know that he is. You come off a career year like that this late in your career, I don't know that you immediately repeat it the following season. But I will say this. They added Bradley Chubb on defense, who is amazing edge rusher. You're going to put him opposite Von Miller, that you're already looking great on defense, adding to a defense that was top 3 last year, like you said, in total defense. All they really need from Case Keenum is to be as good as Peyton Manning was the year they won the Super Bowl. And I don't think you're asking a lot there.
No, I mean, I guess you put it that way. You're not. But at the end of the day, it's just there's the weapons there, too, don't impress me either. Like a Demaryius Thomas is getting old and he's been banged up. Emmanuel Sanders, he's been solid here and there. Their running game's been iffy, to say the least. So in Case Keenum, he did that one season. He showed me one time that he can have a consistent season from start to finish, and I don't know if he's going to do that again. And like you said, he's getting older, so a career backup quarterback having one good season is not going to sell me that this team can compete. But that being said, their defense just reloaded again, like you mentioned, Bradley Chubb coming on there. I don't see them pulling out the division. I think they could be okay, is what I'll say.
All right, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and make our picks for the division, and we'll give you 3 fantasy players we really, really like out of it. I'm going to go ahead and just say my pick to win the division here is the Denver Broncos. I look at this team, and I know it's Vance Joseph in his second year as a head coach, but I look at this team, and it's a team that, like we already talked about, they're returning a defense that was elite last year, and they only added to it and made it better. I know they lost Talib, but again, it's that you have Chris Harris, you have pieces in place that can carry you through that, and then you add Chubb. You have one of the most impressive front fours in all of football. And I think when you look at putting Case Keenum in Mile High, where he's going to be able to really just air it out for the first time in his career, this is an opportunity for Denver to be very good on the back of their defense and take advantage of a division where there's a lot of question mark offenses, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks throughout the division. But I guess I'll give my pick. I'm going to go with San Diego Chargers.
LA
Chris
Chargers.
Excuse me, I apologize. I'm just so used to saying San Diego.
Yeah. Superchargers.
Chris Berman's favorite team. But no, I just think they it's not going to take much to win this division for me. I don't know about you, but I think a 10-6 record is going to be enough to win the division. I'm right there with you. And they beat up on each other a whole lot. I don't think any other team, like you said, there's a lot of question marks, but there is one consistency, and that's Phillip Rivers and Melvin Gordon. I think that's a great duo to have. People don't talk about them enough. And I think, their defense, if they can remain middle of the pack, if not improve, and I think they added some pieces in the most recent draft. So I just think they can pull it out. Looking at their schedule too, it's not that difficult. I mean, of course, that could change. The power shift always changes every year. Teams become bad or teams become good every single season from the previous. But I just think that San Diego or LA Chargers, are going to be victorious in this division.
I can't hate I think the LA Chargers, I have them as my second place team. I think Phillip Rivers is poised to have a big year, even without Hunter Henry in place. But I do think when you have a division like this, where you just have a bunch of offenses that really are likely to just be middle of the pack offenses, I got to take the best defense. And to me, that's Denver.
Yeah.
So, again, moving a little bit forward here, giving you 3 fantasy players because we know you're playing fantasy football and you want to know, guys, who do I got to take? If you are looking into the AFC West, if you're looking at guys, one guy for me that stands out and will every year. I know last year it was kind of a down season. It was up and down for him. But Amari Cooper is a consistent wide receiver. He's a guy that I think could put up really big numbers this year in a John Gruden offense. And he's a guy I look to, and I might even have on my fantasy team because I think he's poised to have a really, really breakout year with Derek Carr and kind of in that last season in Oakland thrive off that home field advantage.
Okay, so you're taking Amari Cooper, taking notes for our draft later. Okay, Anyway, my player, I'm gonna go with Keenan Allen. Of course, if he stays healthy, he had a full season last year. Finally, after 3 seasons in a row, just getting season-ending injuries or something like that. I just think he's Phillip Rivers' #1 target, of course. And I think he's going to be a solid producer. He was consistent too when he stays on the field. So I like consistency for my fantasy football teams.
I'm a big fan of consistency too, and that's why my next guy is going to be Demaryius Thomas. And I know you just said he's getting older and you're a little worried about him, but he's a guy who's really been consistent in that system throughout his career. And he's a guy that I look at with a new quarterback, with a guy like Case Keenum playing in Mile High, where he's really going to be able to air it out for the first time in his career. I think Demaryius Thomas is going to bear the brunt of that offense a lot. And he's a guy who's going to get targeted, and Case Keenum's going to kind of lean on him in a lot of drives and in a lot of like third down passing situations. He's going to be looking for Demaryius, and that's a guy where I really think his presence is going to be known on that offense.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to give you a quarterback from this division. You mentioned him earlier. You mentioned his wide receiver. I'm taking Derek Carr. I think an impact, we always saw the Gruden camps on ESPN, and, Gruden's always this guy who's breaking down, helping his quarterback improve. I think Derek Carr is a perfect candidate for John Gruden to help improve his game and make it even better than what it was. And I think this year is going to be a big year for Derek Carr. I don't think for his team it's going to be that great, but I think for Derek Carr statistically, fantasy-wise, he's going to have an excellent year.
Yeah, I like it. And then my final pick, it's very obvious. The best running back in the division, Melvin Gordon. I got to go with it. I know like you might have a disagreement because of what Kareem Hunt was able to do for you in fantasy football last year, but Melvin Gordon had such a consistent year last year, and he had so much just explosiveness out of the backfield, and he really came into his own. This is a guy that I don't know if you're looking at running backs and you're a weirdo that specifically wants players from the AFC West on your fantasy team, Melvin Gordon's the guy.
I mean, I can't disagree with you. I loved Kareem Hunt last year just because my team name was excellent. No, I'm just kidding. But Kareem Hunt he had a little bit of struggles here and there. Of course, he was a rookie, so I can't hold it against him. But Melvin Gordon had huge games, and he was fairly consistent for most of the season. So I can't knock that at all. But the last guy for the division, of course, Travis Kelce. How are we not talking about the guy? Big, huge tight end, Kansas City, got a new rookie quarterback, and he's not technically a rookie. He's got the Ben Simmons effect coming in for his second year. But young quarterbacks love their tight ends, and Travis Kelce is the perfect target to throw to. I think he's going to have an excellent year, of course.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce is going to make life really, really easy for Pat Mahomes, easing him into the offense because he's one of those. Him and Gronkowski are two guys that really, over the middle of the field, are just unguardable.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, you got a guy, right? Defense have to worry about Tyreek Hill going over the top with that speed. I think Kelsey's going to get some nice open looks in the middle of the field, like you said.
All right, that's all we got for this week's Monday Mashup. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Detroit Sports Podcast. Next week, I think we're going to go ahead and just say we'll give you the NFC East and the NFC North, and we'll give you our breakdowns on those two divisions and also some fantasy players from there. And we'll kind of work through this as the next few weeks go. But thank God after this, there's only 5 more Sundays till football.
Yep, and only 18 more days until the Lions' first preseason game. I'm excited.
Beautiful. And college football's right around the corner. We got some awesome stuff planned for that, too. Thanks for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. And thanks for supporting Detroit Sports Podcast. Of course, you can go to the website and donate through PayPal or just on a credit card, however you want to do it. We really appreciate that as well. Keeps us on the air, bringing you awesome content. Thanks for listening.